Hi Bianca, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Amy?
I'm good, thank you. So I've got some questions to ask you about your academy experience. So the first question I have to ask you is, how do you feel you've transitioned from the Ten10 Academy to your client work?
I think for me, it was quite an easy transition. The client was very accommodating. They were aware of the knowledge that I'd gained during the training. They were also very understanding in terms of the transition for me, especially having ADHD and never being in an office environment. So they're very accommodating to that as well. So, but I was also able to like quickly apply the things that I'd learned, and even the little things made a difference.
So what client teams have you worked with and what specific projects have you been responsible for during your placement?
Yeah, so I'm with my clients in the finance sector. So I was put on the credit risk DevOps team. Basically, if as part of that team, I mainly worked on support of the system. That included, it basically included a lot, but the main thing to understand is that we basically manage a platform to check trades before they go live. So that included me having to learn to understand the system, understand pipelines, a lot of the DevOps side, including running builds, checking the system's working, getting up to address any issues with the system. So that was my main focus when going into the team. And then that builded up to more credit risk, BA style support work. So when any trader, regulator, anybody that uses the system had any issues or needed advice about what was going on in the system, why they were seeing this value change, then they would refer to our support box, and that was typically me and another colleague on that. That then grew. So I was then put on morning support of the system. That meant I had to check that everything had been processed so we could process our deal checks and trades into the system. So it was a very, very important high pressured piece of work. So I was always doing a lot and really enjoying it and getting thrown into the deep end. And they've been building up my knowledge. So I would do SQL, C Sharp, in terms of making system adjustments and changes. I've now recently moved to credit risk services, which is more like a project desk-based team that work alongside credit risk analysts and quant to build up the system. And that's been more project-based, and I'm really enjoying it.
So are you preferring your kind of new responsibilities over your old ones, or what would you say is your kind of favorite that you've done so far, your favorite responsibility?
I feel like I loved being on support because it allowed me to get a grasp of everything. I was like able to do every type of work, such as development, testing, BA, so I could get a grasp of which one I liked rather than forcing myself down like one route. And then now moving on to my new team where I've kind of honed the fact I like development, and I get to do that more project based and build up those skills a bit more undistracted and focused, because support is high pressure. So I'd say that I loved both. Obviously now I'm a bit more narrow, like a proper route, which I feel like is good for me as I'm building my knowledge.
Fabulous. So my next question is, what parts of the Ten10 Academy training have been the most useful in your placement?
I feel like for me the biggest part was the whole introduction into Scrum. That was a big part for me. I remember speaking about in my interview with my client, just understanding those concepts before I got out into the environment, because you found straight into it, was really important for me. Understanding the framework of things, how things work in tech industry as an overall perspective. Because as you get in it, you can tend to learn the skills, but if you don't understand where you are, what your position is, then that can be a bit harder. From like an IT perspective. And I also found that during the training, even though I struggled more so with some parts, I found that being able to learn from others, doing a lot of group work was really helpful for me, because it helps me to understand that when you get out into your team, none of your work is really done on your own anyway. You can ask for support, you can ask for help. And yeah, I found those collectively really helpful.
What's a normal working day or week for you? Like take me through, your daily tasks, your weekly tasks, the type of things you do.
Yeah, so my week has changed for me, but on a Monday we typically have our stand up at 9:30. We run down what we've done the previous day, and then might get assigned some tasks, typically easier development tasks because I've moved on to a new team. And then I might go through with my colleague who's like the BA. He might just go through with me, might have a quick meeting discussing what I need to do, any other knowledge I might need, and anything else I can pick up to do. So, and then I'll spend some dedicated time getting those PBIs worked through, maybe reading up on what we have as like a confluence of information, to help me get a better understanding of the PBI, and then I'll work throughout the day. And then Tuesday, we're typically in the office, so I typically have our stand up, but maybe a bit longer as all of us are in, and same thing will repeat as the previous day, but typically it might be thrown in a bit of testing, or I might get thrown a bit of analysis work. And then yeah, that tends to continue throughout the week. Only other differs are typically we might have a meeting to discuss something a bit bigger, or we might discuss with another team called methodology, which is like credit risk, but more of the math side, to discuss what we're doing. And yeah, that might continue throughout the week. And then typically we have our sprints every 2 weeks, finishing on a Thursday, Friday. So then we'll have our big meeting on the Friday to discuss, to do our retro and planning for the next week. And yeah, that's typically a week.
Amazing. So, have any of your roles or responsibilities changed during your time on placement? I know you've kind of gone through this, so I'll kind of change the question up a little bit for you. And how have you kind of dealt with the way it's changed? Is it, have you got a bit of imposter syndrome throughout it, or has it been all right the way you've kind of handled how things are different?
I think for me, going from support to like a dedicated like project team, it was a very big change. Support is a lot of high pressure. You don't really get to focus on anything, sit down and get stuff done. You kind of have to bounce between tasks really fast. You're always on the go and always on the ball. Whereas the new team I'm currently on is more so project based. You have to take your time with things, see how things work collectively. I feel like it was a bit of imposter syndrome because in that team, I kind of have to be have to be a developer, or that has to be my role. And I feel like realizing that I have to not necessarily box myself to that, but now this is what I'm expected to do is a bit more pressure than just being able to pick up anything. As well as like the changes of team. Obviously, I've gotten used to my previous team. They've gotten used to me. That adjustment. But yeah, I feel like it's a bit more pressure, but it's a pressure in a good way.
Cool. So do you think 1010 were quite helpful in the way that they built you up for that kind of expectation, or was it something you just weren't expecting? Did you think you were going to be put doing the same thing, or is it something that you were kind of prepared for already?
I feel like I was prepared for it. I knew that this was like a DevOps role. I knew that my client was really looking for someone to build up. So I knew that I was going to be, even though that this was my role, they would possibly give me more things to do, want to build me up in certain areas. So they were very clear with that with me, that it was more like they would treat me more so like a graduate in my client. And yeah, they let me know that straight off the bat. So I felt like it was a good choice for me. And yeah, I like the fact that the role is still kind of pressure and that type of work, because I do enjoy that always having something to do type of work.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people can work better under pressure as well, can't they? If they
Yeah,
have really strict deadlines, it's like, okay, I do have to get this done.
no,
Um,
definitely. I
and
feel
it's
like
good kind of learning new things as well. Sorry, I cut you off there.
no,
But
no,
it's good to
definitely, I
learn new
agree.
things as
So
well.
especially having ADHD, sometimes when you have that leeway of not having that pressure of time to do things, it's just like, when you have that pressure, it's a bit more strict. Or I know what I'm doing, I know what I need to do now. And yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, you kind of know how to block your time out, don't you? And how to, like, when you
Yeah.
get things done. So what technology, tools, frameworks and processes have you gained experience with since starting client work?
Yeah, so at my client, the tools that I've gained experience in are Microsoft Azure. I've gained two accreditations in Microsoft Azure at the moment. We also use C Sharp, XSLT, and Power BI. And we also use like a cybersecurity software, which I've also been looking at as well, called Qualys. I build up my knowledge in those, definitely on support as well. and I've gained so many skills from that, and I've really been enjoying it.
So my next question is, how has your client supported your development? So in training sessions, one-to-ones, things like that.
Every week we have a coding school meeting, which is we go through C#. One lesson will be go through C#, and one lesson will be go through SQL, and that has significantly helped me build up my skills. And then, as I said before, we have it's domain-driven design / workshop / book club, where we go through a book about domain-driven design and how to better like engineering culture types of conversations. And they've just been very, very supportive in terms of wanting me to build up my knowledge. From when I started, my feedback was mainly that I had the really, really good attitude. I just needed to build up more knowledge in more areas. And then in the last 6 months to a year, I really have been focusing on that area, and they've encouraged that. We even have an innovators, like a company-wide innovators day, where we're faced with a problem and we're in groups of teams where we have to work out how to resolve that issues collectively with BAs, analysts, software engineers, developers. So they're very, very big push on being innovative, engineering culture and stuff like that.
Well, that's really good, and it's also kind of helps you with team building in a sense, because you're learning how to get on with all your co-workers and how you'd all deal in certain situations and working together, which is really good.
Definitely. I even forgot to say, we were able to go out to Utrecht, go out to the companies based in the Netherlands for about 5 days. And during our trip there, we got financial markets training, so we're able to get like a better understanding of the corporate side, which was honestly amazing. Like, I could have never believed that we were able to do that. And I feel like it really felt like they were investing in our learning and building us up as graduates.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it shows they're really wanting you to progress in your career, and they're bothered to get you on board well in
Yeah,
the team and stuff like that. Cool.
exactly.
So what support have you received from 1010 during your placement?
So I've had I'm constantly speaking to Ten10 regarding like just my well-being. Obviously I have ADHD, or how I'm doing and stuff like that. Which has obviously helped keep me motivated. Not only motivated, but also just reminded me to like focus not just on my work, but be careful, take care of my mental health, not get too consumed in things as I do sometimes. So I feel like it's just helps me breathe, but also get the job done, which has been helpful. And yeah, generally, I always have I have somebody to speak to if I need help with anything, which is also really nice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they'll know you really well because they'll know you from when you started to now you on your client work. So they'll know the way you work. They'll know things that, emotionally, how you feel with certain tasks. So it's really good that
Yeah,
you still have
exactly.
that like contact with them. So my last question for you is, have you ever been given any extra opportunities through your client work? So I know you mentioned your trip to the Netherlands. So if you could kind of speak through how that came about, more detail of what you did.
Yeah, so as grads, the previous grads weren't able to travel to Utrecht because of COVID. And they knew that a lot of us wanted to get like more training on financial markets. So they were able to send us to Utrecht to get the training there, but also meet other teams that we worked with there, which was an amazing experience to go there and it be like one of the biggest buildings I've ever seen in my life. I was literally amazed. It kind of gives you a context on the type of work you're doing. So it was really, really nice. We have like these weekly meetings where we're encouraged to find ways to build ourselves in the company. One of the ways was I would say somewhat like a mentor, or my first grandmaster. He would encourage me to push my knowledge about mental health. I've been working on becoming a mental health ambassador here, and that's been like really important to me, as well as like encouraging like talks around neurodiversity and mental health. And I was even able to take part in like our World Culture Day. I had like a little stall for Jamaica, and it was just really nice to like get to know like all my colleagues, different countries and where they're from, and even have some food, and everybody really enjoyed my food. So it was a really nice experience.
That's really, really good because it's, you're still learning, but then you're taking your personal knowledge from things even outside of work and you're bringing it into your workplace and educating other people. I think that's really, really good that they're doing that and encouraging people to get involved with more personal stuff rather than just keeping it corporate. I think that's really amazing.
Definitely. I think one of the biggest things for me was that one of the first things I was told here was to not neglect my like psychology degree, my knowledge, and that I could use that in corporate to build, to learn to speak to people better, or just in loads of different ways. And it was one of the first things that I was also told at 1010 was that that knowledge can be used in different ways. So I really appreciated that link there of like ethos, and it was just, yeah, it was really nice.
Oh, that's great. So thank you so much for speaking to me, Bianca.
Thank you.